And I'm here to answer all of your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated, be they left wing or right wing. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. I know it can feel like trying to learn a new language. So, this is the show where you can ask all of your questions about politics, and nobody is going to roast you or judge you or make fun of you or anything like that. I don't believe in debates. I don't believe that they are productive. So, you will not see any debates here. It is just going to be good faith answers to all of your good faith questions. So go ahead and throw those in the chat and we will get to answering them. Comment in the chat, question in the chat, shoot me a follow. But most importantly, ask questions about politics and we will get to answering them. Everybody is welcome here, whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, something in the middle, or something on the outskirts. I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to roast you. I'm not here to debate you. It is just good faith answers to all of your good faith questions about politics. There's no such thing as a dumb question, so you don't have to worry about your question being so simple or something that you could Google or something that you were supposed to have learned in high school. I don't care. I don't make fun of people for trying to learn new things, and I know that sometimes it can be difficult. I know that sometimes it feels like there's a large barrier to entry, and it feels like any question that you might ask could have, 1,000 different things in it that you would then have to Google. So this is the place where you can ask all those questions. All right, looks like Brackets asks, can a petition fire the president? No. The only way to get rid of the president is through impeachment, and the only way to impeach the president is for us to vote for House members and senators who are willing to impeach the president. It should be noted that Trump has done wildly impeachable things, and that the only reason why he's not currently being impeached and removed from office is because Republicans are in control of Congress, and they don't really care if Trump does wildly impeachable things. They don't care. So long as it's the president of their party, they're cool with it. All right, Brackett says, so only the three branches. No, only the one branch. Only the legislative, only Congress can impeach the president. Casper says, not only did Kirk lie about politics, he also lied about that MJ being better than LeBron. I didn't know that he said that, but honestly, that's pretty low on the list of things that I'm upset about. Triska asks, how am I feeling about the midterms right now? There's an expression, worry about everything, panic about nothing. I'm going to keep on doing the work every day until the election is over, and then hopefully things will go our way. I don't do predictions. I don't rest on my laurels because I'm sure that things are going to be great, and I don't lose my fucking mind because I'm confident that things are going to go poorly. I do the work to try to get the outcome that I want. Ooh, ready. Dominic Lococo says, two senators from Illinois. Is that a question? Cedar Gray says, why don't they care? Why don't they care about the country? It's an interesting question, Cedar Gray, and there's a lot of potential answers to that. I think the biggest one is that the electoral structures of America are set up in a way to make it really difficult to hold them accountable for not caring. Even if they lose their job, they can then get very lucrative jobs for all of the billionaires that they cut their taxes and passed legislation that's profitable for their companies. The billionaire right-wing propaganda network will do their best to, spread a bunch of lies about them to try to get people to vote for them going forward. Yo no hey ho says you banned me last live. I mean, if I did, then how are you still here? Noah Fifita Floor Heisman says yo back. Okay, what is up, Green Vibe Live? What is up, Mikhail Meme? Good to see y'all again. Brian Cobham says, why doesn't the government make AI trading bots for everyone to fix the wage issues? I don't think that AI trading bots are so unbelievably lucrative that the government can give everybody one and make it so that they would never have to work again, or make it so that they could just afford to buy their food that way. Brian Cobham. Mikhail Meme says, what is a Senate in America? So the legislative branch is one of the three branches of our government. There's the presidency, there's the Congress, and there's the judiciary, which is like the Supreme Court and all the judges. The Senate is half of the Congress. Congress is separated into two houses. One of them is the House of Representatives, the other one is the Senate. The House of Representatives deals a little bit more with financial issues, and the Senate deals with nominating judges and confirming appointments to various government positions. It's Jacob says, "Are you proud to be an American?" Sometimes, and depending on what's going on in the news, yeah. There's a lot to be proud of in regards to the things that America has accomplished in its 250-year history, but there's also a lot to be deeply ashamed of. And so I think that you can do both. I think that you can be proud of your country and also strive to make it better. I think that's probably the most patriotic way to be. Triska and Dan, thank you so much for helping me reach my first gift goal of the day. Razik Q says, "Are you gay?" No, I am not. And also, if you want to know if I'm gay, ask your mom. Okay, D Chum Tetum says, "Are you a Democrat?" Yes, I am a Democrat. Dan Blackwood says, "Where at least you know you're free." I feel like that's a reference to something that I said in the past, but I don't remember what it was. Jacob says, "Do you like Trump?" No, I do not. Izzy says, "Ivanka bought trademarks for voting machines from China. Why?" I know that she bought trademarks. I don't know if they were specifically for voting machines in China, Izzy. I definitely think we need to I think we need to fact check that. Green Vibe Live asks, "Why is it all these politicians are busy arguing and going at each other instead of simply focusing on what each side needs to get done on their own states and cities? Maybe do that instead of fighting. It's so illogical for any side to be fighting. You're part of one damn government." So Green Vibe Live, it's a pretty fair thing. It's pretty fair criticism that you have said. But if you look at the history of the two political parties, if you look at the way that they have fought, the way that they have cast aspersions, the way that they have name called across the aisle, you see a pretty specific pattern emerge where for the past 50 years, the Republican Party has said like wildly inappropriate and divisive shit about Democratic politicians and Democratic voters. And for a long time, the attitude of the Democratic Party was, we're going to try to work with the other side. It turns out that the Republican Party didn't give a shit about that, and they just kept on pushing and pushing and pushing to get more of what they wanted, knowing that the Democratic Party was going to try to compromise and try to be the bigger party. And the turn recently of the Democratic Party going a little harder against the Republican Party and Republican politicians specifically, I think is a positive change because they've been getting kicked around and bullied by the Republican Party for like 40 years. So, yes, I understand. The issue is the Republican Party. The issue is it takes two to tango. Like, there can only be peace if both sides agree to peace. There can only be compromise if both sides agree to not weaponize compromise. Jacob says, "You know how there's an extreme right? Is there an extreme left?" There is, but the extreme left is pretty tame. The extreme left is like people should be paid enough to live and people should have free healthcare. Plain Daddy Mick says, "Have you thought about acting? You could probably play a young Christopher Walken character." I mean, I started as an actor. I acted all through high school and college. I did a little acting after college, and I started getting into comedy. And I still really enjoy acting. I did a little acting when I moved out here to LA with my wife. But the thing with any creative pursuit is that doing it is a hustle. So like even if it's just a hobby, you have to get headshots and you have to submit for auditions and you have to audition, you have to memorize monologues, stuff like that. And it's like, I would accept acting work, but that's not really my priority. Okay, Greg says, "Do you favor DSA?" I don't know about the organization DSA, but any candidates that describes themselves as a democratic socialist, like AOC, Bernie Sanders, James Tallarico, those are my politicians. Those are my people. All right, 907 Jason says, "How do we get Israel out of our Senate?" Vote for the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is voting in record numbers to stop sending money and weapons to Israel. They are standing up to AIPAC and Netanyahu in record numbers, and the Republican Party, who's currently in charge of the government, just keeps on sending more and more money and weapons. The Trump administration removed sanctions on illegal West Bank settlement. The Trump administration removed a ban on sending 2,000-pound bombs to Israel. So it really is about voting out the Republican Party, replacing every Republican politician with a Democratic politician from president to dog catcher. Okay. Green Vibe says both sides are acting like Wendy's and McDonald's trying to beat each other out. It's so damn stupid, but like I get the frustration on both ends. But damn, again, Green Vibe Live. Like the issue is the Republican Party. Like I can show you dozens of examples of Republicans saying like crazy, outlandish, hyperbolic, um, incendiary shit about Democratic politicians, Democratic voters, and Democratic politicians during that same era going, well, I don't really agree with their position, but I will try to work with them and, blah, blah, blah. In 2008, when Barack Obama got elected, the Republican Party decided that their mandate was just to say no to whatever Barack Obama asked to do. And they would just always just put your foot down. We were not working with them. They would like we would not give them a single vote on a single fucking thing. And the Obama administration did an incredible amount of work trying to bring Republicans into things like the Affordable Care Act negotiations, but he discovered that they were not acting in good faith. They were just there to throw a fucking wrench into the works, and so they eventually had to pass the fucking thing with 0 Republican votes, which was their entire intention. Okay, Ken says the issue is unrequited hate coming from liberals. That is not true, Ken. And I got to be honest, I don't think that you're here in good faith. So I'm just going to go ahead and block you right now. All right, Fogwar Production says Democrats are 4 times more likely to cut people off over politics than Republicans, respectfully. So Fogwar Productions, I believe that is probably an accurate statistic, but I believe that is voters as opposed to politicians. My new friend over on Twitch, Green Vibe Live, is upset about politicians fighting amongst themselves, and so that's the kind of the what do you call it? That is the issue that I was discussing. Now, as far as willing to cut people off, I think that kind of says something about the behavior of Republican politicians, that Democrats want to cut people out for supporting these politicians who are hurting people. Like I have family that I have cut off, and if I was able to undo that decision, I might. I can't say if I 100% would, but I'm in an interracial relationship, and my wife has suffered from, I don't want to say hate crimes, but people being shitty to her because of her race. And this family member who I cut out was sending me messages asking me to like support the Trump administration leading into the 2020 election. And I was like, I can't have you in my life because I do not think that what you are doing is even a little bit okay. Like we're looking at a drastic rise in anti-Semitism among other kinds of prejudice. My dad is Jewish. My last name is Berenstein. I got this beautiful Jewish face. I got this beautiful, woman of color as my wife. Your vote is putting us in danger. It's putting everybody in danger. Like, do you think that's okay that we just like go, hang out at the family gatherings as though everything is cool? So, anyways, that's kind of where I come down on that, Fargo War. Oh, right. Let's get back to these comments. I'm doing a lot of monologizing today, a lot less answering of questions. Casper says, "Why do you start blocking people when they start making good arguments?" I don't, Casper. I don't think I've blocked anybody except for one dude on this live stream who clearly was not here to be a part of the conversation. Rihanna asks, "Have you seen the petition to make people who go and do abortions to be charged with first-degree murder?" I have not seen that petition. It's pretty shitty, I think, not only to sign that petition, but to make that petition. And also, there are a bunch of Republican politicians who are actually trying to enact that as legislation. So I don't think that people should. I don't think people should vote for Republicans. All right, Sparta the First says, "Hey, Europe here. Is the USA great yet?" I mean, the Trump administration is doing everything it can to make us not great. So definitely not during the Trump administration. Berg 46 says, "Why are all politicians, regardless of party, self-serving swine?" They're not, Berg. The Democratic Party is better than the Republican Party. Democratic politicians are better than Republican politicians. I can go into more detail on that if you want, Berg. All right, Dill says, "How do you feel about Ohio passing the Keep Them Safe Act? Seems like a good step forward." I have not looked into that at all, Dill. Can you tell me anything? Can you tell me anything about that? The Livables Bedima Life says, "Will J.D. Vance be pushed out for Don Jr.?" Potentially. I don't think that JD Vance or Marco Rubio have the juice to pick up the MAGA crowd. I think it is much more likely that it goes to somebody who has Trump as their last name already. But who the fuck knows? Political predictions are completely worthless. Benny T. Bronx says, "How do you feel about network news censoring Trump's speech to the nation? Typical left-wing corruption." That is inaccurate, Benny. News networks are not obligated or required to air presidential speeches. They have not aired Obama speeches. They have not aired Biden speeches. It is a regular thing that news networks do. Benny T. Bronx. Additionally, Trump's speech was a whole bunch of lies meant to incite a bunch of unjust and unnecessary questions into the safety of our elections. So I think it was right that they didn't. Okay, let's see here. Dill says allows people to turn their guns into police or registered gun stores during a mental health crisis. Oh, I like that. I think that's great. Chili Willy, Muzz King, and Triska, thank you so much for helping me reach my second gift goal of the day. User whole bunch of numbers says preference for JD Vance or Marco Rubio. I mean, neither. They're both terrible. I guess I would go Rubio just because he's older, and I'm just like just leave, I suppose. Okay, let's see here. RM says, just find me 11,000 votes. Yeah, should have been in jail for that. Bilal Hassan says, predictions for the outcome of the Iran war. We're going to spend a whole lot of money that could have better been spent on healthcare and housing. A bunch of people are going to lose their lives. A bunch of American service members are going to lose their lives. A bunch of Iranian service members and also civilians are going to lose their lives. Costs are going to skyrocket. The Strait of Hormuz is going to continue to be a quagmire. It's going to go on for a really long time, and then the midterms are going to happen. Pune says, "Can Hong beat Tom Tiffany?" I don't know about that race. Real Democrat says, "Before I came here, I wondered what Joaquin Flores looked like if he had AIDS." That's fucked up, man. I'm just sleep deprived because I have a baby at home. Can you come on, dude? Mark says thoughts on gun control. I'm for it. User a bunch of numbers says, did you see the State Department's publication on Cuba yesterday? Seems like we'll attack Cuba soon. I don't doubt that at all. User a whole bunch of numbers, but it really does seem like the Trump administration has their hands full losing a war to Iran. I don't think they also want to lose a war to Cuba at the same time. All right, Mikhail, hold on a second. Green Vibe says, no, I know it's just wild that the Republicans act like McDonald's. They are the place with the broken ice cream machine trying to brag they're going to fix it and never do. Mikhail Meme says, could you show me, though, that Republicans won't work together with the Democrats, Jared? Yeah, I mean, there's not like one specific instance. The Obama administration is probably the best example of this. The Biden administration, there was a bunch of legislation that the Republicans filibustered, which, the filibuster is a very specific thing. It's not voting against whatever the bill is that the Democrats are trying to put forward. It's saying you're not even allowed to vote on this. You, the Democrat, nobody's allowed to vote on this bill. And the Republicans were filibustering almost everything that was coming out of the Biden administration. In addition to filibustering like everything that came out of the Obama administration. But yeah, there's dozens and dozens of examples of this. Green Vibe says, my brother used to be MAGA and I still don't trust his crazy ass. Yeah, it's a real fucking bummer. Right. Mark says, I got $2,000 that we attack Cuba 2040. I do not endorse, placing those kinds of bets. Fog War says, my concern is polarization is taking on the characteristics of an ethnic conflict. Fog War, I get it. I 100% get it. And I hope that you've seen Fog War. Let me know if this is coming through. I hope that you've seen that this show is not about that specific attitude, about, if there's somebody in here who's voted for Trump or Republicans or still considers themselves to be MAGA or Republican or whatever, like I don't block people for that. And I try to engage in good faith with people who have different political beliefs than I do. I'm just saying I get it. I'm just saying that I get it. If you have people in your life that are, part of a marginalized community that is being targeted and hurt by the Trump administration, the Republican Party, etc., like I can understand being really emotional about that. And if somebody who is supposed to who you're supposed to love and trust and supposed to love and trust you back, has been enabling those people that you care about to be hurt. I can understand why that's really frustrating and why you would not want to put up with those people being in your life. Alrighty. Yeah, let me know. Fog of War says, I'm not blaming you at all. You're doing the Lord's work. I still have my worries. Oh, yeah, 100%. But Fog of War, I think the only thing we can do is be the change. Like let's be the change that we want to see in the world. Brando says, thoughts on the Tate brothers. Happy that they're getting extradited and thrown in jail. Fingers crossed that they stay there. Tough shit says, my Iraqi dad said that he would rather vote for Republicans. Why does he say that? Tough shit. Squid Vicious says, if he does comedy, he's clearly a Dem. Republicans have no sense of humor. I don't know. I think Adam Sandler's a Republican. Kelsey Grammer's a Republican. Those guys are pretty funny. All right. Motherfucker name Devan says, what percentage of the government is circumcised? I have no idea. Kara says, what are you politically? I'm progressive Democrats. MQ Green says, will Democrats reclaim Congress in the midterms and will it reign in Trump? So nobody knows how the midterms are going to go. If you look at polling, it looks good. Like Democrats look as though they're going to take over the House, potentially the Senate, though that's a little bit of a harder swing. There's a bunch of shit that could happen between now and then that could ruin or improve those odds. But yeah, nobody knows. If Democrats take control of the House, it will reign in Trump. If Democrats take over the House and the Senate, it will reign in Trump. If Democrats only take over the Senate, that will reign in Trump. It won't be able to solve every problem. It won't necessarily be able to remove him from office, but it will be a huge step forwards. Jay says, what's your position on Muslim influence in politics? It's the same. My position on that is the same as my position on Jewish influence and Christian influence and Buddhist influence. I believe in the separation of church and states. And so there should be no religious influence on politics. Individual politicians are allowed to be whatever religion they want, the same as every citizen is allowed to have any religion that they want. But yeah, are you trying to get me to say that there's too many Muslims in America, or the Muslims are turning America into a Muslim country? Like, that's just not happening. That's not a real thing. Too Much Ado says, are you a Republican or a patriotic Democrat? I'm a patriotic Democrat. Rini Roxo says, heard about the rally Bovino is having in August in Fishers, Indiana. Seems secretive and suspicious. I have not heard about that. So all thoughts and prayers for the people in Indiana. Oh, Jay says, talk out both sides of your mouth. What is it that you want me to say, Jay? Like, honestly, I'm answering your questions. Welcome, everybody, to Ask Me Anything About Politics. My name is Jared, and I answer your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated, be they left-wing or right-wing. So it doesn't matter if you're a Republican, a Democrat, something on the outskirts, or something in the middle. I don't judge, I don't roast, and I don't debate. I am just here to answer all of your good faith questions about politics. If you want to support the show, there's a lot of different ways you can do that. You can share, you can send gifts, you can send bits, you can be a super fan, you can join my Patreon, you can tell your friends how great the live stream is. But yeah, just throw your questions in the chat. We'll get to answering them. Shoot me a follow, etc., etc. Fletch Lives Again says, next No Kings. I've not heard about the next day of protest. Somebody whose name looks like a Russian character says, would you change the U.S. system of election to just standard votes ones? I don't know what you mean by just standard votes one. Kara says, left wing, right wing, how about chicken wings? They're pretty good. Mikhail says, how can I do the work that you talk about even though I live in Sweden? I mean, just do the work in Sweden, Like, I don't know how okay it is for people from other countries to try to do political work in America, even if it is the good kind of work that I think people should be doing. But yeah, make your country better than it currently is in any way that you can. Okay, Grace123 says, vote campaign. Thank you, Grace. Okay, let's see here. Loki Smokey says, thoughts on socialism. I like universal health care, if that's what you mean. Alrighty. All right. Russian character says, I mean, without states' points, I mean, if you're asking, do I think we should get rid of the Electoral College? The answer is yes. Rob Shatter says, what do you like about universal health care? It's cheaper. There are fewer barriers. There's less bureaucracy. There's not a whole bunch of CEOs of insurance companies getting billions of dollars by denying people life-saving medical care. That's just this, the short version. Cheaper, better, less complicated, doesn't create unnecessary billionaires. Squid Vicious says Republican, Democrat, I just want to grow. Very cute. River 147 says, why are Americans typically uneducated about the world? I mean, America for a long time was seen as kind of like the center of the world, like the global leader. And so we, as silly as it sounds, kind of like got a big ego about it. Like, why would we pay attention to other countries when we're the most important one? Obviously, that's not a great philosophy to have. And I think that Americans are suffering from that lack of knowledge today. I think that we are recognizing how fallible our position as the world leader is. So yeah, I expect that to change. Okay, Bob Sterling says thoughts on Troy Jackson, aka Troyotathon. He's the guy that's probably going to be the new Democratic nominee in Maine, right? I don't know too much about him. Seems like he's got the exact same policy platforms as Graham Plattner without the SA accusation and the Nazi tattoo and the Reddit post. So seems pretty cool to me. Grace123 says Donald Trump is ending universal health care, and I'm in the healthcare industry. Well, we didn't have universal health care, Grace, so there's no way for him to end it. 12345 says, what's a Republican and a Democrat? Those are two different political parties. The Republican Party passes laws to help the billionaire class. The Democratic Party passes laws to help everybody else. No, Ditto, great to see you again. Says, is it more empathetic to create government dependency or promote general empowerment? I think that you can do both. Like the issue that I have with the idea of personal empowerment is that we are saying that every single one of your problems you can solve by yourself. There's no such thing as structural inequities that oppress certain communities or people that grew up poor, that any human being has the exact same ability to prosper and have a great life as every other human being. But that's just not the case. Like growing up in poverty makes it much more likely that you will die poor and that you will die early. Being black, being a woman, being part of the LGBTQ community, like all of those have structural mechanisms for being oppressed. Ergo, we need to do things to help people. That it's not just pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, which when that phrase was originally concocted, it was meant to be a joke, like because it's impossible to do that. It's impossible to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. That's the whole fucking point. Alrighty, Kara says groups can only be empowered on the level of a community. I don't know if I agree with that. Grace123 says constitutional law, general empowerment, freedom of speech, freedom of democracy, freedom of expression. Grace, I gotta say, I don't know how productive your comments are. So I'm just gonna say, please start asking questions, or I might have to mute you for this live stream. Okay. Loki Smokey says Democrats love the billionaires too. That is inaccurate. Democratic politicians raise taxes on the billionaire class and they regulate their businesses. It is true that some Democrats take campaign contributions from the billionaire class, but what that does, in effect, is water down anti-billionaire policy, where when billionaires give money to Republicans, it supercharges their already pro-billionaire policies, Loki Smokey. Grace, again, this is your final warning. Donald Trump has been around since 2014, repeating the same crap he's been repeating. Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Grace, but we don't need what you're doing. We don't need what you're providing. So either ask a question or leave. G says, do you have credentials? I mean, I know a lot. I don't know what more credentials you want. Ricky says, workers should control the means of production. I agree. Carr says, garlic parm wings or barbecue. I go barbecue wings. I got a real hankering for some barbecue flavors. Nathan Goss Baderick says far right religious beliefs are what is being used to oppress. No arguments here. Grace123 says facts are facts. I don't care. Either ask a question or leave. Alrighty, let's see here. Welcome everybody to Ask Me Anything About Politics. My name is Jarrett, and I am here to answer all of your questions about politics. Congratulations, Grace. That was your last warning, so you're out of here. Everybody is welcome here unless you're spamming the comments. Everybody is welcome here unless you're not asking questions in good faith. Mikhail says, we agree to disagree. About what? About the barbecue sauce? Mayor of TikTok says, I declare that eating all the deviled eggs at the church potlucks is not a sin. Cool. Lily says, do Democrats not continue to uphold the capitalist system that allows billionaires monopoly? No, it is inaccurate to say that, Lily. The Democratic Party is the party that has the politicians in it that do not want to have a capitalist system that allows billionaire monopoly. It is literally a laissez-faire, trickle-down economics, free market attitude that the Republican Party has been championing and has not allowed the Democratic Party to alter at all. Now, the American people, in all of their wisdom, have decided over the past 50 years to basically share power between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. And what that told to the Democratic Party was that, oh, people like it when Republicans do pro business things, so maybe we should do pro business things as well. But if the American people voted for more progressive Democrats, then we would get even more anti billionaire legislation. Okay, Loki, you're in question jail. Loki says Democrats funds literal Israel. What are you even talking about? The Democratic Party has a record number of politicians who are voting against sending money and weapons to Israel. Loki, so it seems like what you're saying is inaccurate, Loki. So maybe you need to check your facts. Nancy Pelosi is voting against sending more money and weapons to Israel, Loki. It seems like you're ignoring some pretty interesting and important facts, don't you think, Loki? Certainly can't wait for you to certainly can't wait for you to respond to that, Loki. Loki says, "What do you mean, progressive Democrats? Oh, I don't know, like James Tallarico or Jasmine Crockett or Andy Bashir or AOC, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Chris Murphy, JB Pritzker, Tim Walz. Let's see. Yeah, the list goes on and on, my guy. Thank you, Car. I appreciate that. All right. John Abbott says, wait, I got distracted for a minute. What did you say about barbecue sauce? That I love it. Loki says, but if Israel still exists, it means they support it. No, that's not what that means at all, Loki. You're in question jail. Either ask a question or leave. Matthew says, gas prices. What the hell is going on? The Trump administration has done a whole bunch of things, including starting a war with Iran to basically make gas prices go up. Billy Bud says, how did my private equity family get so rich using Internal Revenue Code Section 1061? I don't know what that is. I don't know what that code is, but private equity is one of the ways in which people manipulate the markets to put money in their own pockets. AJ says, did you not read the NDAA? I don't know what that is. Loki Smokey says, nah, I meant to ask you, what are the politics of a progressive Democrat? Sure. I mean, every progressive Democrat is probably going to have a different set of priorities, but it would all be things like taxing the billionaire class, universal health care, free public college, social safety net programs, doing something about climate change, breaking up monopolies, doing something about gun violence, making sure that companies aren't poisoning our water and our air and our food with toxic chemicals, shit like that. All right, Billy Bud says IRS allows U.S. private equity to pay a flat 20% federal tax rate. All right, well, I don't know if that's a real thing, so I can't even tell you. AJ says, when the NDAA passed, Israel won't need the aid. Pelosi is safe to vote against the aid. Silly. Well, I don't know what the NDAA is, AJ. Danny Rosario says, progressive Democrat leadership, true American values for every citizen. Completely agree with that. Loki says, bruh, so they're just social Democrats. Use better terminology, dog. Loki, you are trying to start a fight. You can either be cool or you can leave. I don't care for this attitude where you're like, just trying to rage bait me. It's not going to work. I don't do that. I just block. All right. Billy Bud says, this is a real thing. That's how we got generational wealth. Well, I'm against it if it's a real thing. Ms. Gonna be all right someday says the NDAA failed, though, didn't it? Well, again, I know nothing about this, so y'all can find it out in the comments if you like. Welcome, everybody. My name is Jared, and I'm here to answer all your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated, be they left-wing or right-wing. We do not fight, we do not roast, and we do not debate here, so it doesn't matter what question you ask. So long as it is being asked in good faith, you will get a good faith answer. Okay, this is Phone says the line between satire and politics has never been more blurred. I mean, I don't know if it's satire. I think it's fucking screwball comedy. It's fucking Dumb and Dumber shit, Welcome, everybody, to Ask Me Anything About Politics. My name is Jared, and I'm here to answer all your questions about politics. Mikhail Beam says, what I mean is we agree to disagree was that we agree to disagree on things. What a weird thing to say. John Abbott says NDAA is the National Defense Authorization Act. It's the military budget. Gotcha. Okay, yeah, I don't really understand what that has anything to do with Democrats voting against sending more money and weapons to Israel. All right, Ben says, what do you say to the far right uprising in Europe? I say y'all should not be doing that. I do believe that we're at a tipping point. I believe that the work of hostile actors like Russia and the billionaire class, in order to trick people into voting for more conservative parties, I believe that people's eyes are being opened. And I believe that that's happening here in America. I think it's happening overseas as well, though I could be wrong about that. I don't really have my finger on the pulse of what's going on in Germany and France and Italy and shit like that. But it does just kind of feel like people are waking up to this. Like they see the damage that people like Trump and Boris Johnson and Putin and Netanyahu are doing, and they're voting away from that. Maybe it's not happening fast enough. Maybe the billionaire propaganda is is going to actually keep that from happening. But I don't know. It does feel like this moment is different. It does feel like we're turning a corner, and I hope that you all are part of you know, the effort to make that happen, to make that more of a reality. JL2662 says, do you support Trump's decisions on immigrants? No. Barbaric, inhumane, counterproductive, illegal. Yeah, do not support, do not endorse. Ben says, I'm from Germany. What is the biggest difference in our politics systems? Oh, I don't know what your politics is like in Germany. I don't really. I'm not an expert in foreign policy. There's too many countries to try to learn about. I'm more of a domestic politics expert. That's what the flags are here to indicate, and the name of the live stream is Ask Me Anything USA Politics. Shit like that. T Glove asks, who's your dream president 2028? Chris Murphy, senator from Connecticut. Righty. Small Peener says, just curious about your thoughts on log cabin Republicans. Oh god, I have not heard that expression in a really long time. I honestly, I can't even remember, Small Peener, what that means. What are their policies? Okay, McKelmy says, I meant I was promoting and a good quote. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I don't know, McKelmy. I think you've lost me. All right, John Abbott says, the thing that dude there is angry about is probably the attempt of the NDAA to effectively merge the Israeli and U.S. militaries, but the Democrats voted that down. Sounds about right, John Abbott. Just another person trying to cast aspersions, make it seem like the politics of both parties are the same, etc., etc. Jacob McShartalot says, thoughts on billionaires? I'm against them. Smart Clipboard says he's talking about Tucker. Who's talking about Tucker? Zach says, Republican or Democrat? Democrats. Right. All right. Yeah. Wow. We really caught up on all our questions, everybody. So, yeah, any questions about politics, just let me know in the chat. I will answer all of your questions if I can, so long as they are asked in good faith. Small Penis says, basically or crudely, LGBTQ Trumpers. Well, I don't get it, man. Are you trying to say that there's like socially liberal Republicans is what a log cabin Republican is? Okay. So you, the person with the Russian characters, you corrected me above, but I didn't see what the correction said. Or somebody corrected me, I thought. So anyways, your letters, be they Russian, Greek, or Ukrainian or whatever, says, and Brocacho is against wealth people. What the fuck are you listening to him? I don't know what that means. Oh, log cabin Republican is Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is a nothing. Tucker Carlson is just, he will say or do whatever it takes to increase his money and power. Joey G says, Team Black or Team Green? I don't know what that means. Zach says, what is the main reason you are a Democrat? Ooh, it's hard to pick one reason, Zach. I think the easiest way that I can say this is that on every policy issue, the Democratic Party is better than the Republican Party. You just pick your issue, and whatever it is, Democrats are trying to make it better, Republicans are trying to make it worse. The philosophy of the Democratic Party is that government can be good. It can be fixed where it's broken, and it can do great things. The Republican philosophy is government is bad, so we should break it and not fix the things that are broken. And I am fundamentally against that political philosophy. The economic philosophy of the Democratic Party is to tax the wealthy and use that money to make everybody else's lives better. And the Republican philosophy is to cut taxes for the wealthy and then hope that that money eventually trickles down. We have worse income inequality now than we had during the Gilded Age, which was an age that was named after how bad the income inequality was. It's worse now. When is this wealth going to start trickling down, my guy? Like, when's it going to happen? So, yeah, there's just a handful of ones. Oceanaholic says DHS won't pay for people in ICE. Oh, there's a bug in here. DHS won't pay for people in ICE custody to see a doctor. They aren't even accepting claims. That's fucking nightmare shit. Billy Budd says Tucker Carlson may have more money than my parents. I don't know how rich your parents are, Billy Budd, but he does come from a very rich family. Tough shit says, would you rather vote for JD Vance or Stalin? Pass. Right. Russian character says, would you return ATF and USSS to US Treasury? I don't know what those are. Period says free Palestine. I agree. ASDFY9 says, okay, please clarify on the debate. Is cereal soup or not? Cereal is not soup. Ready. Mikhail Meme says the right wing is growing in Sweden, UK, and Germany, etc. You know, I wonder about that, Mikhail. Like, I believe statistically that's probably happening, but I wonder if that is a consequence not of more people liking the right, but of fewer people liking the left wing parties because they aren't far left enough, or they're being viewed as being complacent in a broken system or something like that. Again, I do not think that I am 100% right about this. I was just telling people what my vibe was about what's going on in Europe and the right wing swing. All right, Fog of War says, I was playing Star Wars Battlefront 2 during your Andor speech yesterday. Whoa, that's some fucking watching the Wizard of Oz while listening to fucking Pink Floyd, right? That must have been really enjoyable for you. All right, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, Explosive, United States Secret Service. Was that ever part of the Treasury? Yeah, that's way over my head. I don't know anything about that. All right, MQ Green says, how do you see U.S. diplomacy developing post-Trump? Will it retain its allies? That's a tough one. Whoever takes over from Donald Trump is going to have a lot of work to do repairing relationships with other countries. Now, if it's a Republican, I find it unrealistic to imagine that they will do the necessary work to repair those relationships. I believe it will probably be a lot more, you guys have to do what we say because we're the most powerful, greatest nation on earth kind of philosophy. Might makes right, 100% transactional, et cetera, et cetera. If we have a Democrat, I believe that we can use things like soft power, diplomacy, and culture to try to repair those bridges, to try to have a better alliance with other countries going forward. But it'll be hard. It'll be really hard, and especially in nations where we've done like a ton of damage. Like the next Democrat trying to do another JCPOA, like, yeah, fucking good luck. Good fucking luck. Kara says, what's the Democratic Party materially doing for the trans community? It's a really good question, Kara. And I wonder if the issue with the trans community is not that there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but that there's a lot of bad that needs to be stopped. And just replacing every Republican politician with a Democratic one would basically stop, I'm going to say 90% of the hurt of the trans community. Yeah, I can't think of any legislation that anybody is putting forward. I think it's mostly like, stop hurting the trans community. Like, that's the attitude of the Democratic Party. Let me know what you think about that, Kira. Carr says, did you see Dump is trying to beef with Spain? LOL. Well, he fights with everybody. What the hell else is new? He's a child. Anonymous Mole Rat says, are we going to love flock cameras and ICE when we're under President Jeffries? I don't think Hakeem Jeffries is ever going to be president, and I do not believe that Democrats are going to be cool with ICE and flock cameras. Anonymous Mole Rat. What a weird thing to try to say that that's going to happen. Tough Shit says, why don't we put non-citizens in jail instead of deportation? I think that if a crime is committed, there might be some desire to see the punishment of that person in this country. Like, you don't want to give them back to their country where they can just be free, no punishment whatsoever, and then maybe they sneak back into America and do more crimes. But yeah, generally speaking, we don't want to waste money putting you in a prison. So just get the hell out. All right. Michaela Means says, I think right wing is growing in Europe because crime rates have become bigger because of immigration. I do not believe, Mikhail Meme, that crime rates are going up because of immigration. I just don't buy it at all. Misty Lane, great to see you guys, says, we should just give up, guys. The rest of the world can't forgive America for Trump. They can get bent dog. I know you don't really believe that, Misty Lane. Hakeem Jeffries will be president. He has just about as good of a chance as Gavin Newsom. I don't buy either of those things, Misty Lane. Louise says, thoughts on Trump's tariffs. Tariffs can be really useful, but the way that Trump did them was really unintelligent. Anonymous Mallrat says, Obama failed to disband ICE and close Gitmo. Well, first of all, Obama did not try to disband ICE. He tried to rein them in. And ICE basically told him to go kick rocks. So, I don't know what you think one person can do about that sort of thing, especially when there's a divided Congress. And also, he tried to close Guantanamo. I would much rather have a president try and fail to close Guantanamo than not try at all. Kira says most of the legislation is being done on like a state level. Yeah, that is accurate. But I mean, you also have policy shit happening within agencies. Like Pete Hegseth has enacted anti-trans legislation for people in the military and stuff like that. Ready. John Abbott says the world moved on from Hitler and treats Germany like a normal nation. One day the same will happen for the U.S. From your lips to God's ears. John Abbott, from your lips to God's ears. All right. Welcome, everybody. My name is Jared Berenstein, and I'm here to answer all your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated, be they left-wing or right-wing. Cliff Pink says ranked choice voting is better. I completely agree. Mia Zelvi Adventure says, can you please read my DM? I looked for it. I didn't see it. The only DMs I've seen from you, Mia, are you inviting me to watch certain lives. I think that you're probably watching at the same time. But yeah, I haven't seen any of your questions or anything, Mia. Jane says, why is religion part of politics? Shouldn't have to swear on a Bible or anything. Yes, I believe that is accurate. Shane, since the inception of America, we have had a sort of like philosophy of freedom of religion, but that hasn't really been, enacted in how people vote. For a long time, you had to be a Christian, and there's like a handful of Catholics that got elected to be president, and people were like, "Whoa, a Catholic!" It's no accident that we have never had a Jewish president or a Muslim president or a Buddhist president or anything like that. So while we have tried our best to uphold that ideal of being a nation that does not have an official religion, we've kind of unconsciously had an official religion of Christianity. Now, I think that every day that goes by in America, that is becoming less and less, and I'm down for that. But what we're looking at here with Republicans in charge is attempting to legislate their way back into that unconscious agreement. They're trying to legislate not that we all kind of agree that a non-Christian can never be president, but instead, like actually writing the law, like you have to be Christian in order to be president. You have to be Christian in order to be an elected politician. You have to be Christian in order to be a teacher, in order to be, in order to work for so-and-so companies, you have to be Christian. And ergo, if you do value the separation of church and state and freedom of religion, you should vote every single Republican out of office. You should vote out of office every Republican from president to dog catcher if that is something that is important to you. All right, Misty Lane says, do you think the DSA is parasites that is using the Democratic Party? No. The Atlantic put out a piece about it? Well, I'm down with the Atlantic. I'll definitely give that a try. The Atlantic, they do have some writers that I do not fuck with. So it's possible that one of their more centrist writers is behind that DSA hit piece. But yeah, the actual structure of the DSA as a group, I do not condone or condemn. I don't know anything about them. But the philosophy of DSA candidates, I fucks with, like that's just far left politicians, and I'm down with that, That's your You know, that's your Chris Murphy's is, and that's your AOC's is, and that's your Bernie Sanders is, you know, shit like that. Kaiser says, do you believe in a regime change in Iran this year? Very, very unlikely. Before the war in Iran, before the Trump administration murdered the former Ayatollah, it was much more likely that there would be a natural, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like, what's the opposite of astroturfed? It's like ground, like home. What's the, ugh, what the hell's the word I'm looking for? It's like, it was a purely organic moment that was happening in Iran where people were really fucking pissed off about the government, and they were working on, you know, they were working on their own regime change. They were going to do it themselves. And then Trump murdered the Ayatollah. A younger, more extreme Ayatollah is now in charge. Now the all of Iran is way more angry at America than they are at the Ayatollah. So yeah, probably not happening anytime now. Zach says, is abortion murder? I don't think so. Mikhail says, I'm going to watch Jinx CC tomorrow. All right, later. Mikhail, great to see you again. Livia says, Arab Spring, not the word I was thinking of. What's the opposite of AstroTurf? What's the opposite of, like, you know, when it's a spur of the moment thing that happened where, you know, people are just doing small dollar donations and, you know, they're, you know, the political movements that kind of spring up out of the citizens themselves, as opposed to being like funded by some billionaire. Grassroots. Thank you, Livia. Yeah, there was a grassroots protest movement that was happening in Iran. Thank you. Everybody eventually got it. Zach says, what's your thoughts on ICE? I have nothing nice to say about ICE. They are an illegal organization behaving barbarically, criminally. They deserve to be in jail. All of them. Okay, Zach says, what's your thoughts on ice cream? Delicious. All right, Russian character says, do you support the idea of unification of DEA and ATF? Honestly, Russian characters, I don't care. That the structure of how we divide the various agencies in our government is the least of my concerns right now. Bradford Hutzman says, will the U.S. break up ever, like the independent states of America? I don't think so. I think it's probably unlikely that will ever happen. Kara says, what's your view on the economic blockade of Cuba? It is doing more to harm the citizens than it is to harm those in charge, and that is the opposite of what our policy should be. If we want to have a change of government to a more humanitarian government in Cuba, we need to attack the politicians and incentivize the people to change their own government. But what we're doing right now is making all of them angrier at us than they are at their own government. Exactly what Trump is doing with Iran as well. All right. See you later, Russian characters. Thank you for being here. Short says, should the U.S. abolish Chipotle? Oh, I don't know. I don't love it, but I'm also not mad at it. Chad Bitten says, what would you say to a Mexican that's MAGA? Besides crying in sorrow, obviously. Honestly, Chad, I would just ask why. I would just ask what it is that made them that way. You know, and then I would just try to slowly try to build the shared reality that would hopefully get them out of the MAGA movement. Bradford Huntsman says, who's the best Dem to win in 2028? Nobody knows that. Nobody knows the answer to that question, Bradford. Anybody who tries to tell you that this person is more electable than this person has a better chance than this person, like, you can base that off of polling sometimes. Like, you can look at how well certain candidates poll against hypothetical, you know, JD Vance or Marco Rubio versus AOC versus Gavin Newsom or whatever. But that stuff's not really indicative of what's definitely going to happen in the future. You know, things can change. That is just a snapshot of what is happening in people's political opinion right now. Bradford Huntsman says, we need women to be in charge. No arguments here. Chad Bitten says, they say they don't like illegals because they're still stuck on believing Trump is only targeting. Is that what you're talking about with your Mexican MAGA? Yeah, I guess then my next question for them would be, are you seeing the reporting about all the things that ICE is doing? Are you seeing the innocent people who are being killed? Are you seeing the innocent people who are being detained illegally? Are you seeing the conditions in the detention centers? Are you seeing that 90% of the people that ICE is fucking with, for lack of a better term, have done zero crimes, and some of them are citizens. Um, some of them are veterans. Some of them are Native Americans. That would be my next question: is are you seeing this? And if you're not, why not? Elaine, Missy Lane says, everyone cheering on the collapse of America. I wonder if they ever considered the implications of a truly failed nuclear power. I wonder the same thing, Missy Lane, and that is why I do not advocate for that shit ever. Livia says, is revolution in the US even theoretically possible? I mean, I guess it depends on how you define a revolution. I think we are currently in the middle of a revolution. I think that people recognizing their political power as citizens, people voting for more progressive Democrats, people recognizing the issues of money in politics, people putting political pressure on their representatives and on business leaders, like, me here talking in a way that the Trump administration would fucking hate if they knew about it. Like, this is revolutionary, don't you think? Does shit have to be on fire for it to be a revolution? Livia, let me know. Kira says Alligator Alcatraz is just a concentration camp. Unfortunately, that is accurate. 2028 says, would reparations like we gave Israel but to Black Americans make American economy and crime better? I cannot say for certain. I think that if you give money to people who are impoverished, you do make the American economy better and you do make crime better. Are there more African Americans in poverty than non-African Americans? Potentially. I don't know the statistics on that. And I'm not going to say that African Americans do more crime than everybody else. But if we follow like that poverty argument, the answer is maybe, I suppose, could be. Cam asks, pro-life or pro-choice? I am pro-choice, but even if you are pro-life, you should still vote for Democrats because Democratic policies decrease abortions. Republican policies do not decrease abortions. They actually increase accidental pregnancies, which increases the necessity for abortions. And also, Republican policies make pregnancy much more dangerous for women. Zach asks, is abortion murder? I forgot what you said earlier. I said that I don't think abortion is murder. Hawaiian Bear says, poor people commit more crime. Yes, that is, I believe we got there. Hawaiian Bear. Alessandra asks, who's winning the primaries? Nobody knows. Livia says, interesting take. Thank you. I'm talking about a citizen revolt. Again, do things need to be on fire, Livia? Like, what does that mean? Do you mean like people stop going to work, people start striking and stuff like that? Because I'm down with that, but that takes a lot of work. Oh, you want things to be on fire. I don't want things to be on fire. Cam says, thoughts on the two-party system? Not perfect. Also not responsible for all the things that people say it's responsible for. Josie says, things are on fire. Warehouses, to be specific. Do you think that those warehouse fires are still happening, but they're not in the news because they don't want more people to do copycat warehouse fires? I think that's a really interesting question. What the Wheat says, a proletarian revolt, kill the system. I'm down for that. The problem is we need to set up like a bunch of mutual aid societies and food kitchens so that people don't starve to death while they're all striking their jobs. Fog War Production says the American Metro was not designed to withstand a siege. Louise says, how does lobbies work in the US? Basically, if you pay a politician a lot of money, they will listen to you and potentially do what you want them to do. It's basically legalized bribery. John with no number says, what's your favorite political party? Democrats. Geronimo Green says, why do people treat Lincoln like he was an amazing guy? I mean, he freed the slaves, won the Civil War. That's pretty cool, I think. There were things about Lincoln that you don't like? Geronimo Greens? Livia says, I don't want fire. I'm asking how or if that would happen. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, as somebody who is trying my best to get change without lighting things on fire, I feel unqualified to answer that question. I think that the best revolts don't light things on fire. I think that the best revolts don't break windows. I think the best revolts don't hurt people and don't kill people. Nunya says the system is great if you have any amount of talent and work ethic. If you have neither, your life may suck. So that's inaccurate, Nunya. There are plenty of people with talent and work ethic who the system fucks with and does not allow to achieve the American dream. And I'm curious if you know that. I'm curious if you sincerely believe that everybody who's poor is poor because they have no talent and work ethic, and that it has absolutely nothing to do with the circumstances of their birth, where they're from, who their parents are, shit like that. What the Week says Lincoln was uniquely evil towards Native Americans, even for U.S. president standards. Oh, I didn't know about that. Geronimo Green says he only moved to emancipation because Europe was going to help liberate the South, and he was racist. I don't know. I don't know. I'm interested in all this information. I hear you guys. I think it's important that we do not lionize politicians, even those that lived in the past and are potentially worse, for that, living in a time when slavery was okay and they probably said some shitty things. Yeah, I don't know. I just finished reading Ben Rhodes's book, All We Say, which is a collection of political speeches throughout America's history, good and bad. Like there's a Reagan speech in there, there's a white supremacist speech in there, there's a Trump speech in there. And it does seem like Lincoln was a progressive version of a president for back then. But I could be wrong about that. I'm not gonna die on that hill. All right, we're at an hour. Everybody, let's see here. Yeah, I haven't heard back from Nunya. Do you care, Nunya? Seems pretty sus, in my opinion. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the support, the likes, the shares. If you want to support the show, you can send gifts on TikTok. You can send bits on Twitch. You can be a fan or a super fan on TikTok. You can be a subscriber on Twitch. If you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe for free. Cost you zero, helps me out a ton. So I really appreciate that. And also, you can join my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Shoot me a message if you feel like it. If you got any questions or whatever, DMs are open. You can email me through my website. You can hit me up on my Discord channel. Link is in the bio for the Discord. Discord's a great resource, a lot of great information there. Regular streaming schedule is Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. Goodbye.